Λοιπόν, είμαστε όλοι εδώ. Καλησπέρα. Good evening. I think all participants, all attendees are here. I would like to welcome you in this session about society of the first interdisciplinary conference of the Athens Call Athens Association. Well, I'd like to thank very much Mr. Psafas and Athens Call Athens for this invitation and for this initiation that is very cosmopolitan and very constructive toward a new kind of humanism. I would like to thank all participants for the acceptance of the invitation. So this is the social part of the conference. This has to do with the social perspectives of our future, of our technologically saturated future. And we have very distinguished speakers from now until 4 o'clock. Professor Buraselis, Dr. Patrikakis and Dr. Feidakis, Dr. Patrona, Ms. Maistreli and Professor Kyriakides. So, Professor Buraselis, the floor is yours. The title is very intriguing, The Allure of Consensus and the Perseverance of Minority Aspects of Democracy in the Hellenistic World. So, humanity is moving backward and forward, inside and hindsight. I talked about humanity in the future. You will connect the past and the future, Professor Buraselis. So it's very interesting to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear colleague. Let me begin by expressing a hope, especially after carefully listening to your presentation. Let me begin by expressing the hope that the modest ancient word may be perhaps still useful in our brave new world of, among other things, I like the term, I did not know its existence, of crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is, the main example of it is, I suppose, Wikipedia. As an ancient historian, I thought right from the beginning of presenting to you some ideas, some findings of my research connecting various phenomena of the Hellenistic world, the world after Alexander for the non-specialists. And I thought that these findings might be interesting for a citizen of our century. Well, not crowdsourcing, but real dependence on sources is my weakness. And I may begin with an inscription from the small Aegean island polis of Anafe, which preserves a decree dated to the 1st century BC and concerning the local Everietis Archonidas. The assembly of the people decides therein to thank him for his contribution to sustaining the community through various significant honors during his lifetime and after death. At the end of the decree, it is mentioned that the relevant proposal had been subjected to a vote, assisted by the responsible public servants. The number of the voters is not surprising. There were in all 95 yes votes, exclusively yes votes. The number is not surprising for the expected standards of this small polis. Anafi is still today, apart from the touristic period, a small world, and it is probably not very different from that of the whole citizen body. Thus, in a panegyric manner, the whole citizenry of the polis expressed their absolute agreement on the proper reaction of the city to the services offered them by these very good citizens. In slightly earlier years, in the end of the 2nd century BC, the important polis of Colophon in Asia Minor, near Smyrna, honored by a long decree its own Evergetis Menipos, son of Apollonides. His services to his home city are there described as capital in critical times, prostanda tis patridos en keris anangeis. The context of his activity was precisely the highly thorny phase of the transition of Colophon from the status of a city of the Pergamene kingdom to that of a satellite of Rome and its final accommodation in the Roman province of Asia. Various questions pertaining to the territorial rights and claims of the city, but also to the personal rights of Colophonian citizens towards the Romans, and the latter's tendencies of encroaching upon them, had demanded subtle diplomacy and intense negotiations, which the educated and experienced Menipos had been able to conduct with praised success. At the end of the decree, the precise city magistrates added the result of the respective vote in the assembly. There had been 1,342 votes, of which 1,326 of yes and 16 of no. Again, the total of votes does not seem to differ much from the whole number of the citizens and potential voters. However, it is remarkable that on the issue of honoring such an apparently valuable man, even a small minority, 1.2% of the Colophonians assembled had both the wish and the possibility to disagree, and this fact was faithfully reproduced in the decree of the city, which has been erected in the temple of Apollo Clarios, the patron deity of Colophon. The rejective tendency appears weak, but it has existed, and it has been officially included in the relevant state act. These two types of political decision, either with full consensus or with the distinct expression of a minority of opinion, persistent and also mentioned, are to be found in further preserved decrees by cities of the Hellenistic world, as we are going to see. This typology and its significance for the political developments during the same period deserves our attention, and it has already caught the interest of historians. Two basic views have defined the frame of the relevant discussion. The first, expressed by the Italian historian Luigi Moretti, preferred to recognize in the frequency of consensus decisions witnessed in various civic decrees of the Hellenistic period a realistic tendency to unanimity. The civic communities tended to overcome local differences and to attain a common stand toward the difficult problems which necessarily limited more and more the possibilities of autonomy, but also of internal differentiation in the cities. As Moretti characteristically remarked, the time was long past when, for example, in Athens, classical Athens, the notorious bestowal of a crown to Demosthenes after the big defeat at Heronia had become a rhetorical battlefield between the honorii and Aeschines around the person of the proponent of the relevant honorific decree, Ktesiphon. Self-restriction should have by then replaced the practice of intense strife. In more general terms, the Greek city of Hellenistic times witnessed through its frequent consensus its prudent adaptation to the needs of a new political age. Moretti himself had noticed, of course, that the decrees in question concerned mainly honors offered to distinguished citizens. However, these personalities were obviously to identify with crucial political views in their communities, so that reactions might be naturally expected. Thus, the study of this particular question finally inserted itself into the wider discussion of the quality of Hellenistic polis democracy and the degree of its eventual devaluation in comparison with the earlier, especially the classical centuries. It was then a French historian, Philippe Gautier, who vigorously opposed this interpretation. Gautier emphasized first that the cases of decrees where the consensus is mentioned date not only from the Hellenistic, but also from the subsequent, the Roman imperial period. In the latter, the possibilities of free action and of following a local policy based on democratic dialogue were certainly even more limited. However, Gautier himself underlined the importance of examples where, as we are going to see, the civic decrees mention neither a consensus nor exact numbers of votes representing the majority and the minority. In these examples, only the number of the consenting votes is mentioned, which, as we may deduce, represented the majority of potential votes. In other words, in these cases, the mention of a minority was omitted as the positive opinion had superseded, we don't know to which extent, the minimum of necessary votes, a sort of quorum in respect to the total of potential voters. Therefore, the noted, practically majoritarian vote did not cease to represent symbolically the total of the deciding citizen vote. Thus, no reduction in democratic ideas and practices of Hellenistic polis could be discerned here. Furthermore, the literary sources, for example, Polybius, the basic literary source about the Hellenistic world, provide us with unequivocal evidence for the continuing essence of political life and differentiation in the cities of the Hellenistic world, especially in respect to the increasing Roman intervention and control of the Greek world. Let us now have a look at an analysis of relevant epigraphic testimonies. It is first noteworthy that the express statement of political consensus and not of a specific majority and minority becomes the rule only in imperial times, since circa the 1st century BC, that is the age of Augustus. In the preceding centuries, the appearance of consensus is often connected with decrees of small polis, as in the case of the Anafian decree we saw at the beginning. Similar cases we have from Astipalaia, also from the small city of Hyretiae in Perevia near the modern Tyrnavos. Similar clauses can be found in two of the somewhat earlier, circa middle of the 3rd century BC, 242, decrees of Greek cities concerning and recognizing the Asilia of Kos, the sanctuary of Asclepios, and further the city itself. One of these comes from Amphipolis and includes the final epigrammatic notice, Eψηφίσθη παραπάσες. It was voted with all votes. At Enos in Thrace, the corresponding text ends with the phrase proédρευσαν πάντες. These words have puzzled commentators who interpreted them in the sense that all members of the assembly of the Athenians collectively exercised its chairmanship. An improbable idea. As the presidents of an assembly are regularly also the proponents of its agenda and decisions, it seems to me reasonable to conclude that also here the acceptance of the koanasilia after a unanimous relevant proposal in the name of all citizens is meant. It is further noteworthy that in both these cases there seems to have been a fine interplay between civic consensus and royal will in the background. It is to be deduced that the will of the king of Macedonia, Antigonos Gonatas, was very instrumental in this case. Finally, we have 4 decrees of the 2nd century BC from Kos itself, where an explicit consensus of the convened citizens appears. 2 of them are decrees of the city, and 2 come respectively from the condems of Alasarna and Andimachia. It is interesting in these examples that consensus was expressed and noticed by throwing only positive votes, literally stere psifi, whole votes, solid votes, while no opposite votes or pierced votes, tetripamena, tripia ψήφος, as in classical Athens, had been found. It is further remarkable that the total number of positive votes was precisely mentioned as, for example, in the case of conferring a honorary crown to a fellow citizen who is honored in another decree.
2 minutes left, Professor. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I shall not torture you with further specific cases to help the whole. I'm jumping to the final conclusion. Well, all this analysis was meant to sum up in a dense way and conclude to show that we may say that if the majority is the moving force governing a democracy, the minority and its distinct presence and freedom of expression, as it still happened in the Hellenistic world, has always been the characteristic quality of real democracy. They are both valuable, constitutive parts of a Heraclitean harmony of the opposites, palindonos harmonia, which we should remember and respect in our actions. For the survival of democracy was not a concern only of the Hellenistic, but of every phase of really communal history. This is ultimately the fascination of history. In my eyes, it does never need to become cheap in order to remain of current interest. Thank you very much.
I thank you. We thank you very much for this indeed a very original and substantial piece of thought. And I hope we'll have the chance to elaborate on this at the Q&A session at the end of the day. And you bring us food of thought. And indeed, we need to reflect on this period and the values cultivated during this period and connect with contemporary condition, the contemporary condition of humanity and contemporary values. So it is an important contribution for the conference, and hope that this will be a significant part of the proceedings of the conference. So we'll move on now. We will hear from Dr. Patrikakis and Dr. Feidakis. I think the presentation will be made by Dr. Patrikakis from the University of West Attica. Presentation titled as serving the needs of cultural heritage protection through cultural wave. This is a very, Dr. Patrikakis, I'm sorry, you will do this presentation. This is a very intriguing concept, and I'm very interested in hearing you elaborating on this concept of cultural wear, and I think that it is very up-to-date concept and very constructive in the discussion of humanity, culture, technology nexus. So floor is yours, Dr. Patrikakis. Please limit yourself within these 15 minutes time limit, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Am I coming through okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes. Okay. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Patrikakis. I'm a professor at the University of West Attica, and I'm the director of the Computer Networks and Services Research Laboratory. What I will be presenting here is the joint work of me and Dr. Michalis Feidakis, senior researcher and permanent staff at the university. Okay, so we're both here. I will be doing the presentation. Let me share my screen. Give me a minute because I have two screens. Okay, can you see my screen?
It's fine.
Yes. Okay, so let's start by what culture were and how did we come up with the term. It's not a common term. It's something that we have come up with. And let's start by what where means. I mean, we've been using it in all the domains, in all sorts of contexts. The most common in my field of expertise is hardware, software, firmware, but also in other domains, in other areas, we use where in order to define articles, manufactured articles of a specific type, crystalware, goldware, kitchenware. So starting from this, we thought of introducing this term culture, where in order to define these tools that can be used for supporting cultural heritage. I will come to this in another slide later on. Now, I saw earlier in your presentation, Mr. Chairman, that you mentioned Tim Berners-Lee, and I remember when Web 2 was introduced that Tim Berners-Lee said that, well, we already have these technologies. Why do we need to say that we have something new? In fact, we just found a new use for them. So I will start from this. We do have technologies that can help. Long ago, these were able to provide tools and assistance. Now, we have location awareness. We can identify the exact, not only position, but orientation of a person, and even have the same person choose when he or she wants to be positioned there. We have situational awareness, being able to tell the status of a person in terms of what he or she is doing. Is sleeping, is driving, is walking, and also get input about the ambient conditions. And of course, with the introduction of artificial intelligence, this has become even easier and even more transparent to the user. Now, coming to the user, the means of interaction can come through all sorts of devices. Either these are handheld or owned or worn over us, such as personal devices, or have the fixed infrastructure. Well, we all know by now those digital assistants. I mean, well, I will not tell the name because all these assistants that I have near me will start responding to me. And of course, provide enhanced realities, even projecting the virtual over the physical. So where does culture come here? I will try to identify this term by giving some examples of tools that can be used in this direction. The first one is, in fact, it's not tools, it's set of tools. The first one are tools for augmenting the experience of the visitor. Now, it was a couple of days ago that the Greek television, in fact, aired this film again. It's not new, but it's not that old. A Night at the Museum. Why I mention this? Because it was filmed in Smithsonian, and Smithsonian Institute has been doing some great work in trying to augment, enhance, and improve the experience of the user. It's in the same museum that the movie was filmed, that this application, that you can find this application, this skin and bones application, where you can simply point to the skeleton of a face through your tablet or your mobile device, and the bones that you see in the exhibit, in the physical exhibit, come to life, and the flesh is put around the bones, and it actually comes to life. I'm sure that you have seen many such applications, but these help enhance the user experience, and by now they are standards in many big museums. Now, this is another work of some friends that we collaborate with in Purdue University. It's from the College of Liberal Arts. It's called Forces, and you can find this on the internet, and apart from the web page, also on YouTube. It's a reconstruction of Omaha Beach from the D-Day, when the Allies entered France in World War II. And in fact, there's an attempt of trying to do an accurate historical recreation of what has happened there, which can be used for educational purposes. So you see, we have the tools to enhance the experience. Now, another tool which is becoming more and more important is how to motivate the visitor. And here I'm not saying simply how to make the visitor's presence or a visit to a cultural heritage site or a museum more pleasant, but actually motivate them to be part of it. Gamification is one way to do that. And what you see here is an application that we have provided in the context of Horizon 2020 Storm project, where we try to make the visitors of the site, we try to motivate them to be part of the cultural heritage protection. So this is one of the many scavenger hunt-like games where the player of the game is asked to visit some places. But the difference here is that he or she is not only to passively go through places, but to actively participate in the sense of sending back information, upload sensory data, take an audio clip, take a picture, take some video, give us some information about the environmental conditions, even annotate some media. I will come to this later. So gamification tries to engage, motivate citizens to engage. Speaking about engaging the visitor, let's see the next tool. How do we engage them into actually contributing to the cultural heritage, being part of a crowd, of an active community that will help this cultural heritage be preserved and be experienced better? Well, some of you may have heard the term human as a sensor, or has human as a sensor. We use here the term human as a sensor, as an actuator, or even a tutor, speaking about artificial intelligence. As humans, are the perfect sensing machine. We can see, we can hear, we can speak, we can smell, we can process information, and as I like to say, in case of emergency, we can hit the button. So we're the perfect sensor actuator. And of course, we've been doing this for several years. Now, this is an idea we've been working on with colleagues from Purdue University. Every day, hundreds of thousands of people hopefully will get back to this habit once COVID is through. Go and take pictures from cultural heritage monuments, from places, and they post them on social media. These pictures contain the status of cultural heritage sites. Imagine if we were able to take these pictures and make a 4D representation, not only a 3D, but 4D representation of the cultural heritage sites and monuments over time. We would be able to detect changes, we would be able to detect how it was at some point in time and early detect if something has gone wrong. For example, at the corner there, pictures may indicate that in the past 1 week, something is going wrong. And it's very easy for the machine to do that. We would be working as the human sensors providing this information. Now, what you see here, and I hope because this is a video that it comes through in your screens, this is a representation, and I would like to thank the effort of Estatica for giving the permission for this. You may understand that this is a church, St. Nicholas Church, and this has been constructed, this is the model, which has been constructed from several pictures taken only by mobile phones. You see, okay, the roof is missing because we weren't tall enough to take pictures from the roof. So you see, it's an actual reconstruction of, and we do have the orthophoto, which can guide us around the monument, constructed only from pictures taken by our mobile phones. Tool 4, and this is the most amusing part. Amusing tool, animate exhibits. Okay, let's go back to the night of the museum. I'm sure you have seen at least a trailer of the movie where the exhibits come to life. Instead of being displayed behind screens, they come to life. Well, this can actually be true. And here's the answer, AI at the museum. Let me elaborate on that. Pepper, the humanoid robot, is now working at Smithsonian. You may have seen Pepper. It's in museum, in musea, in hospitals, in airports, and it can answer visitors' questions. It can tell stories using voice, gesture. Let's go beyond that. Now, Patrikakis Brandley Museum of Indigenous Art has Bernson Brandley. It's an artwork critical robot which tries to learn by looking and observing visitors' reactions to the exhibit so that it can hopefully become a critic of art. In fact, it's an experiment, but we're going there. We're going there. Okay, after having laid the tools on the table, let me assemble them into my box and present to you the cultureware. What do we mean by cultureware? I mentioned earlier our collaboration with Purdue University, and I mentioned at some point that visitors using this application on a mobile phone are asked to annotate pictures. Now, we'll know that in order to make AI work, we need to feed it with annotated data. So one of the tools we've been using is once someone plays the game, he or she is given some pictures, 10 or 20 pictures, and simple questions are asked. For example, is this seen on the outside? Do you see a damage? This has been used to train a model for automatically detecting damages in buildings. So the human here acts as a tutor. he or she teaches the machine. Now, from linear to interactive experience, we do have all those assistants. Beside me, I have 3 of them: Alexa, Google, the assistant of Google, and Siri. Okay, I was lucky enough, no one responded. So since these can provide an interactive experience, why not go one step further? Chatbots, they have already been introduced in museums. You will see them more and more. They are able to create an interactive, go beyond the linear experience. You can actually speak to them. Now, there is a catch here. Are they restricted? Are they automated? Or they're truly presenting artificial intelligence? These 2 ends of the line have their pros and cons. Let me provide them with an example. We are using a chatbot, and we have trained it to speak for Venus of Milo. So let's see the one end, the closed domain, the retrieval, the simply automated. It will only answer to questions you have. What's your name? I'm Venus de Milo. How old are you? The exact age. How are you? A more difficult question, it will not answer. On the other hand, if we try to make it more clever, what's your name? The same answer. How old are you? It will give more information that I can process. How are you? It will try to understand, and it will probably answer about the size. If we make it fully, if we try to make it clever, then we may get things that we have not bargained for. Imagine someone asking the same question, people asking the same question 100 times. At some point, even if you were the exhibit, you would be tired. So you could get answers. What's your name? Well, I've already told you. How old are you? I'm old. I don't want to tell you my age. How are you? I'm fine, or I'm tired. So it depends on what you want to do. This is our prototype we're building right now. And by the way, it has the name of Athena. And it's very simple. It's a chatbot. It's on the middle between automation and AI, hoping to go towards AI and see how it will react. In fact, we have a small artifact, a copy of Venus de Milo, and simply by going near the statue, we can speak to it. Happy to provide you with more information if you want. So, having presented all this, I would like to give the answer to what we think is cultureware. How all these nice tools, guides, stories, soundbooks, 3D representation, X realities, games, chatbots can be used. And I think that the green, the text in green font can answer what is cultureware. It's the set of tools which can offer a rich, augmented, and exciting experience, even personalized to the visitor, and offering something that could be remembered long after the experience has concluded. But enough speaking about the visitors. How about the experts? I have only one slide because most of you are experts here. Well, all these tools, even though they are able to enhance the visitor's experience, can be used also for the experts. The common denominator here is the cloud. And again, in Storm Project, we have provided the cloud over which humans and machines acting as sensors provided the information, which was processed again by human experts and machine intelligence in order to support other experts, either students and researchers or curators.
1 minute left, Professor.
Yes, thank you very much. So everything is in our palm. What you will see in your screen is some tens of applications, while there are hundreds or thousands of applications related to cultural heritage. And these are applications you see are only applications by Smithsonian Institute. They cover all the areas that I mentioned earlier. So it's already here. The culture war is already in our hands, and we can use it. And of course, it doesn't have to be in our hands. It can be worn. It can be in our glasses. These glasses by Amazon are sold since last year. This ring, the loop, the glasses are named Echo Frames. You can check them. The Echo Loop is a ring which you can wear. So the experience can be free, more free than ever. So concluding, my time, I think I still have a few seconds. I would like to thank you for your attention, and we'll be here for any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Patrikakis. Your work with Dr. Feidakis is more than impressive, I have to say, and many congratulations on the great job you're doing in your lab and the University of West Attica. I didn't know this. This job, and is awesome. Hope that we'll have the chance to read your piece in the proceedings, and hope that we'll have the chance to further elaborate in the Q&A session. And I'm very excited about the implications and the applications of your job because we live in this environment of culture war. Culture war is a key concept, I think, nowadays, and we have to put it in our vocabulary and to think technology in another way, in a different way. And you help in this direction. I think that we have to do a break now, just a small break of 10 minutes in order to be within time limits. So please be back in 10 minutes, and Professor Patrona will be next.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Σας ακούω πολύ καλά.
Ωραία, επειδή πάμε για ένα διάλειμμα μικρό, Μαριάννα, θα έλεγα, είμαστε όλοι εδώ. Okay. Thank you for coming back so soon. I think that we have to think about humanity in relation to technology, history. Professor Buraselis connected humanity with and human values and the political state with the Hellenistic period, and Professor Patrikakis connected humanity with AI and technological developments in general. So humanity is the central concept here, and we have to think about it in the Q&A session, how humanity is an irreducible value that cannot be behind the technology, but technology should be human-centric, and history should go on with human values, and especially modern Enlightenment values. I think that Mariana Patrona from the Hellenic Army Academy will reflect on humanity in this age of social media, how information is changing, and how politics and even truth is changing status, and what can we do about it? Because we have to think about normative solutions, collective solutions in emerging problems. So I care about truth and post-truth very much, and I'm excited to hear Ms. Patrona, Professor Mariana Patrona. Mariana, the floor is yours for 15 minutes, please.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Tsekeris, Babis. You will see that my talk bears a strong affinity to all presentations, and thank you to my fellow panelists for their very engaging talks. Especially my talk bears a relation to the introductory talk by Dr. Tsekeris. In fact, it narrows down that talk to specific facets of the digital revolution. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. Right. I hope you can see my screen.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's better now. Thanks.
Excellent. So the title of my talk today is Social Media, Post-Truth Politics and the Digital Transformation of Political Discourse. My aim is to explore the relationship between digital communication practices on social media, post-truth politics, and the rise of radical populism. Specifically, I'm going to ask, how has the so-called digital transformation impacted political discourse and communication? And is political communication on social media a potential threat to modern democracies? First of all, a few words are in order about the rise of radical populism. As most of you know, populism constructs politics as an expression of the general will of the people, viewed as being in an antagonistic relationship to the corrupt elite. Populism is critical of the existing institutional order. It's anti-establishment and anti-intellectual. What is more, the rise of radical populism is accompanied by an attendant upsurge in populist media, as in people-centric, anti-elite, and anti-intellectual stances in media content. I explore these issues with my colleagues Mats Ekström and Joanna Thornborough in the framework of an international research project we are currently participating in, entitled Right-Wing Populism in the News Media, a cross-cultural study of journalist practices and news discourse. The project is funded by the Swedish Research Council. Populism has also been seen as style and the styling of public performances. So populist styles on social media are performed anti-establishment identities by claiming closeness to the people against the privileged, distant, or corrupt elite, by performing crisis, violating propriety, being unpolished and incorrect, and also claiming sincerity and authenticity and the moral high ground. Now, social media are particularly spreading populist communication and misinformation. And Dr. Tsekeris, in his introductory talk, referred to the technopopulism. Now, what is post-truth? According to the Oxford dictionaries, post-truth was word of the year in 2016. It is defined as relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. So a discourse of authenticity rather than objectivity or truth, which Martin Montgomery defines as a blend of orality and vernacular folksiness in relation to Donald Trump's style during his 2016 electoral campaign. So this populist discourse of authenticity appears to be gaining momentum. Another current trend is the personalization of political discourse, the prevalence of I and personal opinion. Lisbeth van Zoenen calls this tendency epistemology, where first-person narratives and performances of authenticity are assigned a higher truth value in political and popular culture. Alongside shifts in news communication practices on traditional and online news media, where social media content is continuously recycled and reporting on, what we have is an upgrading of the epistemological validity of opinion. Mariana Sumo calls this trend politainment on the digital political stage, from the terms politics and entertainment. So this term is coined to refer to politicians' use of social networking sites as effective communication platforms to promote sincerity, authenticity, and connection with their followers and net users in general. So you know that Donald Trump's Twitter communication has attracted a lot of scholarly attention. Today, I'm going to focus on examples from the American political scene. We have an election coming up in the US in a few days. So it's interesting to see how social media are mobilized to promote the party's political platforms and also individual candidates' platforms. So Donald Trump's Twitter communication is essentially a recasting of his live performances in campaign speeches and rallies, adapted to the 280 character limit of the digital platform. In the Democratic camp, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez effectively uses Twitter communication to mobilize her 4 million followers, and that was in May 2019. To give you an example, in response to a Fox News report on radical new democratic ideas, AOC, as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is popularly known, tweets in a playfully ironic tone, "Oh no, they discovered our vast conspiracy to take care of children and save the planet." Although Trump has multiple more followers, AOC's tweets have been found to generate far more engagement in terms of retweets and likes per follower. In fact, upon arriving in Congress in 2018, AOC even gave a tutorial to her fellow Democrats on the use of Twitter to connect with voters and also on the importance of digital storytelling. So social media is now fairly established as a political campaign strategy. Indicative of this is Mike Bloomberg's meme strategy. This year, the Democratic presidential candidate Mike Bloomberg commissioned top viral social media influencers to create supportive memes aimed at reaching younger voters. Now, I will now turn to consider Donald Trump's so-called Twitter presidency. From January to May 2020, Donald Trump is credited with more than 4,474 tweets and retweets. His tweet style involves simple, often elliptical sentences like "just more fake news," direct address to create engagement with his followers, like "vote now" or "save America," expressive punctuation to signal heightened emotion, like exclamation marks, for instance, use of slogans like "drain the swamp," a motto epitomizing his hostility to social programs and the federal bureaucracy, repetition of words and phrases, and verbal hyperbole through modifiers and the superlative form. So we have modifiers like tremendous, great, fantastic, terrific. Overall, Donald Trump's tweets are characterized by a conversational and idiomatic style of talk. Democrats can find a smoking gun tying the Trump campaign to Russia after Jane Comey's testimony. No smoking gun, no collusion. And note the misspelling in smoking, which is repeated twice in this tweet. Like in his offline performances, Donald Trump casts the mainstream media as enemy of the people. In a recent tweet of his, we find CNN is fake news, and all smart people know that. The fake news media is a real opposition party. He also engages in vilification of his opponents and name-calling. Many more people would have died from the China virus if Sleepy Joe were your president. And the final tweet, in response to Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Crazy Nancy is the one who should be under observation. They don't call her crazy for nothing. Moreover, Donald Trump performs post-truth politics with tweets like that of October 6 to the effect that the United States learned to live with flu season, just like we're learning to live with COVID, in most populations far less lethal. This post was deleted by Facebook and hidden by Twitter behind a warning about spreading misleading and potentially harmful information. Trump on Twitter strategically, tactically mobilizes the fear appeal or scare tactics. In fact, one of the most common emotional appeals in mass persuasion. In his 2016 election campaign, he tweets, "Crime is out of control and rapidly getting worse. This election is a choice between law, order, and safety, or chaos, crime, and violence." Right, so the same call, the same appeal to fear and insecurity is mobilized in his recent presidential campaign. On September 11, the US president tweets, "If Joe Biden is elected, far-left lunatics won't just be running failed democratic cities. They will be running the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and the US Supreme Court. No city, town, or suburb will be safe. On November 3rd, your vote will save America." And then in September 20, he tweets, "Winning big. Next year, if I'm reelected, will be our best year ever. Sleepy Joe wants to quadruple your taxes and go to socialized healthcare, depression." And finally, on October 7, Democrats want to shut down your church, Democrats want to shut your churches down permanently. Hope you see what is happening. Vote now. So generally speaking, Trump positions himself as set against Washington elites. He's set against what he calls the failed political class. In this Instagram post, we read, "Never forget, they are coming after me because I'm fighting for you." So this is a message reiterated in his campaign rallies. In recent years, the boundaries of the politically sayable have shifted, and the highly mediatized social landscape has contributed to this shifting of the politically sayable. So appearing unconventional includes breaking the established norms of political discourse. Populist discourses are normalized and enter the mainstream by being recycled on traditional media and social media. Ruth Wodak calls this entering the post-shame era, where shameless normalization of racist or undemocratic discourses is paving the way to illiberalism. And I give you an example of actually saying the unsayable on social media. On June 19, Donald Trump tweets, "Any protesters, anarchists, agitators, looters, or lowlifes who are going to Oklahoma, please understand you will not be treated like you have been in New York, Seattle, or Minneapolis. It will be a much different scene." And one of the Twitter users responds, "I'm reporting this tweet right now." Right, so in view of the examples I gave you, so what is really unique about political discourse on social media compared to the other media? First of all, it has to do with the psychological concept of flow. Flow is set to keep the user moving repetitively from one element to the next, deriving satisfaction from the sheer act of consuming media rather than from engaging with its content. For instance, YouTube's associative linking of videos is designed to keep us clicking and watching. When Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are used for political communication, they appear to integrate flow into the political process. And according to Jay Bolter, this is a threat to coherent political discourse and also to substantive political debate. The politics of flow is also conducive to the rapid spread of conspiracy theories through text, image, and video. For example, the conspiracy theories spread by the Canon movement, which was recently banned by Facebook on all its pages, groups, and on Instagram accounts. And I think very briefly, Dr. Tsekeris referred to the filter bubble. Let me give you an idea of how the filter bubble works. We know that social media function as echo chambers. In other words, spaces where one is exposed only to opinions that agree with their own. And this is an concern for political discourse in modern democracies. The two components of the phenomenon are, one, the opinion that is shared, and secondly, the chamber, the social network that allows the opinion to echo being reshared in the network. This creates a filter bubble based on users' browsing history, location, or click behavior. Google and Facebook, use algorithms that selectively diffuse information based on users' preferences, causing users to intellectually isolate from contradicting viewpoints. So this type of algorithmic personalization has been found to constitute a critical factor leading to political polarization and the dissemination of fake news. And of course, digital media lend themselves for organized disinformation and propaganda campaigns. Networks of bots are mobilized to amplify messages. Cyber troops are used to shape public opinion. Fake social media accounts to distort public perceptions of how many people engaged with an issue. Hire trolls to harass political opponents, dissidents, or journalists. So according to the Oxford Internet Institute, a new professionalism is brought to internet propaganda activity. Formal organizations now use hiring plans, performance bonuses, and even receptionists. And last but not least, disguised propaganda and disinformation campaigns are reigning high on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So again, according to the Oxford Internet Institute, political disinformation campaigns have more than doubled to 70 in 2018 and 2019. So creating memes, videos, or other pieces of content is designed to take advantage of social networks' algorithms and their potential for virality for free. So, in conclusion, the term digital transformation, or using technology drastically to improve an enterprise's performance or reach, can be fruitfully applied to politicians' communication practices and communication strategies on digital media platforms that are appearing to transform political discourse and communication. So populist communication strategies and post-truth politics are empowered by social media technologies, so that political discourse on social media is a potent instrument of propaganda. The technological affordances and amplifying potential of social media appear to be crucial for turning public opinion and behavior, for example, voting behavior, in favor of governments, parties, or candidates. So is there an antidote to these threats? First of all, we have to call attention to the point that addressing these challenges goes beyond simple fact-checking. You know, we know that different media, newspapers, for instance, are engaged in systematic fact-checking efforts to cross-check the facts reported by different politicians on social media or traditional media. So addressing these challenges, in essence, calls for effectively revising social media policy to prevent amplification and spread of misinformation. For example, in the direction of the new rules announced by Twitter, they were announced a few days ago, in fact, in view of the upcoming US elections. Just as important, or perhaps even more important, is cultivating social media literacy so as to ensure responsible practices of reporting, critically evaluating, and generating content on social media, practices that align with, nurture, and promote democratic ideals in citizens. And here I'd like to re-emphasize the framework of ethics and ethical practices of both social media production and consumption that Dr. Tsekeris also referred to in his introductory remarks. These are my references, and I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Mariana. A huge list of references. What is truth is at stake, indeed. Technology is contributing to this problematization of truth. Mm-hmm. So we need a mass democratic effort toward media literacy at the micro level, toward regulation, toward new reforms, to introduce reforms in the media system in order to increase trust and increase the so-called effort for a new enlightenment. So the European Union is very aware of this situation and is funding media literacy and is cultivating regulation. But the problem is global. The social media platforms are global. We need global efforts in order to regulate, and we need cooperation for media literacy, for information literacy, for digital intelligence. And populism is a very, very difficult enemy. So technology is a key factor here. I think that humanity and the human experience is problematized. It is a very, very rare opportunity that we have to hear historical accounts technological accounts, accounts about technology developments, and accounts sociological, linguistic, etc. This is a very rare chance, and we are happy that Call Athens give us this opportunity for interdisciplinary thinking. We need dialogue between disciplines, and we have an architect right now, Miss Maistreli. Mrs. Maistreli is a PhD candidate on architecture, and please introduce yourself as well, and the floor is yours to introduce yourself and perform your presentation within 15 limits, time limits, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to participate in Athens Call Athens, and I hope it is the beginning of the establishment of this very interesting conference. So yes, I'm an architect. I am interested in the relationship between human and public space. I'm conducting a PhD on how people from different cultural backgrounds conceive the spatial symbols. Today, I am going to talk to you about the empirical study I am conducting to examine how the Athenian locals conceive the spatial symbols. So, can you see my presentation?
Not yet.
No? No?
Not yet.
Wait, sorry.
Now we can see.
Now it's starting, yes.
Yes?
Now it's perfect.
Okay, can you see my presentation? Okay, my presentation is called The Symbolic Dimension of Athenian Architecture in the Constitution of, of Public Space Perception. Nowadays, we recognize the contemporary trend of people changing locations for tourism or contemporary settlement. We cannot ignore the fact that the mingling of people deriving from the tendency of mobility led to the global pandemic emergent situation of COVID-19. But in this presentation, we are interested in the coexistence of people from different cultural backgrounds in the urban scenery. So urban spaces are formed where locals coexist with temporary visitors. People of different cultural and social backgrounds share the same space, in our case, the Greek public space, but not necessarily the same perception about the symbols, values, and norms of that culture. Architecture in its symbolic dimension can be a symbol of collective memory and historical continuity, symbol of power and sovereignty, symbol of conservatism and introvertism, symbol of the ideal and the divine, or symbol of democracy and free expression. We maintain that spatial symbols form a constitutive part of a certain culture. In this communication, we try to tackle the question, how do people of different cultural backgrounds perceive these spatial symbols? Our scope is to examine the perceptual and emotional relations of both locals and temporary visitors on the spatial symbols that form part of the Greek cultural structure. We consider that locals are carriers of locals are sharing a deep and partly an unconscious perception of their cultural structure, therefore as its de facto carriers. At the same time, they are daily users of space, and we set in question if that makes their reading of spatial symbols incontestable and partly unacknowledged. On the other hand, temporary visitors carry the glance of a stranger and therefore cannot share this deep perception. How does this distant view affect their perception of these spatial symbols? Theoretically, the topic has been approached by both psychoanalytic and cultural anthropology literature. The study draws from both traditions and specifically from the notions of collective unconsciousness stemming from the work of Lévi-Strauss and Bourdieu, and the symbolic as it is defined in the psychoanalytic theory of Lacan. Both of these theoretical concepts refer to the deep unconscious structure created by the historical social continuity and are later injected to its personal entity through the societal mechanisms or family, schooling, and the like. As argued above, these collective structures are deep and largely unconscious. In a sense, they are so much taken for granted that become invisible by the members of a society. The collective unconsciousness concept is expressed in Bourdieu's The Logic of Practice through the concept of habitus and the subtle mechanisms through which a society creates systems of norms and tendencies, thoughts and actions which affect the social users. In Lacan's theory, cultural and societal norms and values are defined by what he terms the symbolic. The symbolic is omnipresent from the very first human experience and permeates every little human creature so as to enter the sphere of society and become a man or a woman. Every person thus constitutes his personal beliefs and thoughts as a result of both the symbolic order, which derives from society, and his personal interpretation upon these symbols. The personal interpretation of symbols forms the ideal ego, and it is the image that every person has for himself, or the image that the person wants society to have for himself. So every person conceives the spatial symbols as a combination of the symbolic order, the law of society, and the imaginary that constitutes the ideal ego. Coming back to the question set in the beginning, whether our perception about the spatial symbols is affected by the cultural backgrounds. Methodologically, we have tried so far to empirically examine how Greek locals perceive the spatial symbols that form part of their cultural background. Does the habitual repetition of everyday life hides these symbols in the local's perception despite their intensity and importance? We have created a method based on projective techniques. These qualitative techniques were originally developed by clinical psychologists and were widely adopted for use in consumer and marketing research. Their intention is to help the researcher enter the private worlds of subjects in order to uncover their inner perspectives in a way they feel comfortable with. The origin of projective techniques lays back to the famous Rorschach inkblot tests. So, in our method, 13 locals were asked to make a storytelling collage based on photographs shown to them. 13 photographs of the historical triangle of Athens with ambiguous and unstructured stimulus objects were chosen. Those photographs depicted Greek cultural symbols, integrated or in a way hidden in everyday scenes. Participants were asked to cut pieces of the photographs and create a collage that would tell a story. The story was called I will meet you tomorrow at 7. In that story, the hero would be an imaginary person, not themselves. They were also asked to answer a set of questions about the collage they made. So this is an example of a photo shown to them where the Greek parliament on the background coexists with a group of people that are collecting money for a sick friend, or here the Acropolis shows up behind the metro station sign of Mastraki Square, and Kapnikarea Church in Ermou Street coexists with H&M, and here are some other photos that were shown to the participants. And here we have some results, some of the collages that people made with the pieces they cut from the photos. For example, this one is Mariana's story, I will tell you the story that she described. So she said, I have a date with a man at Monastiraki at 7. I go out of the house, the neoclassical. I want to take my car, but I am thinking that in Monastiraki I cannot park. And at the same time, I am thinking that I would like to go somewhere else, not Monastiraki, maybe to the sea, with my minivan. But we don't have money for that. So I took the metro, I went to Monastiraki, and I met with my friend at Thanasis Kebab. We met at the Kolu. Another story. This is Georgia's story. Georgia described, it's 7 o'clock and Sophia will wait for me after the office at Syndagma. I walk down Bucharestio Street and I meet her at the stairs. We decided to sit for a coffee because we haven't met for a long time. It's hot and we drink a refreshing juice. Later we walk at the pedestrian street of Ermou until we reach Monastiraki. Sophia remembers that she wants to buy something from H&M for the summer, so we get in. It is crowded and cool because of the air condition. Our meeting ends with a dinner in the famous Thanasis, where we find a table to sit. It is surrounded by tourists. It is late and we get in the metro of Monastiraki to go back home. So there are 2 recurring themes were identified in the stories. Stories of people hanging around or taking a walk in the city with a friend, and stories that make use of the means of transport to move in the city. The basic motive observed so far is a story of people who use the means of transport in order to meet with a friend and hang around in the city. Participants who created such a story tended to use spatial symbols of cultural importance only as a meeting point. For example, Syndagma Square or Monastiraki. Typical stopovers in the stories were for coffee or for food. Only 2 participants made the story that cultural spatial symbols of importance were used in the story with their particular cultural significance. One person made the story of meeting with a friend under the Acropolis and went to the museum, and another one made a sightseeing tour to an Italian tourist. One participant also used Syndagma Square for an obviously imaginary activity of arranging a picnic there with a friend. In the stories collected so far, the habitual repetition of everyday life events and spaces predominates over the recognition of symbols by locals. The stories mostly convey people's functional relation with the city. It is important to stress that participants tend to commonly use the means of transport in their stories. This reveals an uneasiness or aversion for the city center and an inner will to escape. Also, the importance that Athenian locals give to hanging around with people, even if they do not really enjoy or they do not find much attraction in the historical triangle of Athens. It is also notable that they tended to cut and use in their collages other people, probably revealing that the city firstly consists of people and then by special symbols. At this point of my research, a major methodological question is whether this method can uncover more than the conscious of people perceptions. More data are needed from locals. We envisage to reach 30 and a tweaking of the method to be less directive. After this method is structured, I will proceed to examine the perception of temporary visitors. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, very much for this interdisciplinary presentation. And you combine architecture with many social scientific accounts, philosophy, geography, and many other accounts. So this fits the spirit of Athens Calls Athens. I think that, again, humanity can be viewed from many, many standpoints. Again, well, we'll talk about it. I want to finish this whole series of talks with Professor Kyriakides. We are very honored. We are very glad, Professor Kyriakides, that you are here. Professor Kyriakides is professor at Yale Center of Public Health. Is that right?
The Yale School of Public Health, yes.
So we are very, very glad that you are here and you contribute to our debate and to Athens Calls Athens conference, and very interested in hearing your reflection on enabling through research and education a vision for sustainable human planetary health. This is a global grand vision, and we are very anxious to hear you. The floor is yours, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you very much to Ephthemios and the organizers and you as the moderator of this session. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here in this part of the world that sometimes feels it's a parallel universe, and I'm going to try to tie it in with Mariana's and Christina's talks, because it has it reflects on what we're trying to do here. And let me see if I can share my slides. Let's see. Share screen. Okay. Can you see my slides? Can you see my slides now? I hope my slides, okay.
Yes, we can see
Yes,
that.
it's full screen, it's fine, yes.
Great. And even though our preference would have been to be meeting in person in Athens, and that's the time of year I usually am in Athens, but we'll wait until next year. So the idea, and first let me apologize for if I appear that I'm looking away from the screen. The creation of this laptop had it in a way that put the camera at the bottom left corner. So when I'm looking at the screen, it looks like I'm looking away. That's not the case. At any rate, so Christina talked about eternal symbolic pictures that we grow up with, and Mariana talked about the social media and the use of technology, which actually happened last night. I watched Social Dilemma. I would encourage any of you to watch that. It puts things into perspective based on what Mariana mentioned. And we live it here in the United States, that sort of truth, quote unquote. So what we're trying to do here with about 2.5 years ago, and pursuing what Steve Jobs quoted, you can only connect the dots going backwards. And for me and for Vasilis, who you're going to hear tomorrow, it's sort of we sort of tried to go back and see how this idea of this institute that we're trying to start at Yale, how does it tie together human existence in the context of planetary health, which I don't think anybody can dispute that we're having a crisis now with climate change and planetary health. But how does human health play into that? And as humans, what do we create to enable us moving forward with all the technology and everything we have at our disposal to ensure longevity, however you define it, and health, however you define it, both from an individual, but also a public health and planetary health perspective. And in a conversation we had, we thought, well, I'm a biochemistry background major. I went to the School of Public Health and got into infectious disease epidemiology, but always that interest, both from a cultural and an individual perspective, was nutrition. That's a fundamental component of our existence and our cultures, especially in the part of the world that we live in. So I talked to Vasilis and I said, well, we got to do something about olive oil and the olive tree. And I didn't know at the time what it was. And an hour later, after talking, we said, okay, we have, let's plan a symposium and bring people together. Here we are at an Ivy League institution, the School of Public Health, and we don't have anything that talks to health from this standpoint. So we came up with this idea of what we call the Yale Olive Sciences and Health Institute, that will serve as what we saw in talking to people both from our backgrounds and connections we have. There was a missing link between the United States, both academia and sort of the people involved in nutrition and health, and on the other side, mainly the European, Southern European, Mediterranean countries and other global entities that work in the olive tree and its products. So we tried to see if we could bring these two worlds together and facilitate that, not to say that as an institution, Yale has knowledge and expertise in everything and anything, but we have some expertise in some areas, and can we leverage expertise from other places and collaborate, since that's one of the things we do. We collaborate with other people to advance certain parameters of health. And through this, we want to study issues related to the olive tree and its products, interdisciplinary activities, educational activities, and include both academic, public, and industry partners in this. And how do we create something that gives home to people who are involved in this from a different perspective? And every perspective is important. We have to take that into consideration. But again, the foundation of something has to be some evidence-based. I cannot say this works and that's it. We have to show that it works with the sort of the rigor that we want to have this function under. So in talking about this idea, we brought together about 100 people about this time of year in 2018, and people came from Greece, Spain, Italy, people from the United States who are involved in the olive tree and everything that it comes with it. And at the end of day one, after 21 presentations, presentations from chemists to chefs and anything in between, we broke the group we broke the cohort into groups based on their interest. So out of that, at the end, they came back and they said, well, we need to think of an institute and not a center, like the initial idea was, and we need to organize in ways that make sense. And out of that came these 5 groups: analytical and regulatory chemistry and sensory science, obviously nutrition and health sciences, agriculture, agronomy, and planetary sustainability, because the tree functions as part of our environment, our planet. And there's evidence to show that it's the biggest carbon sink that we can put out there to help us address and mitigate some of the climate change issues that we're facing. And obviously, we cannot ignore gastronomy and culture. And it's not just what you eat and how you consume it, but it's the culture around it. We are human beings, after all, and we interact. Yes, social media has taken a big role in our interactions, but we want to bring it back to the olive grove, back to where we think will enhance that exchange of ideas and practices. And obviously, culture is a big thing. No matter what part of the olive producing world you're looking at, it's part of its culture. And obviously, policy and economics. We cannot impart change if we do not consider how does it affect policy and the financial and economic aspects of what we're trying to do. And across this, obviously, something that's becoming very, very inherent in our existence now is artificial intelligence. If we have data, if we have intelligence to use, why don't we use it in a way that's productive? So we're seeing a lot of artificial intelligence cutting across all these cores that we're trying to establish. So I'll go quickly through a couple of ideas for each of the groups, just to give you a flavor of what we're trying to do. And these groups have self-organized since we put this idea together, and they have their own calls and exchange of emails. And we asked them to each prioritize some of the projects once this gets going, how to materialize some of the projects. So obviously analytical and regulatory chemistry and sensory science, how do we use state-of-the-art methods to look at the olive tree and its products in terms of identifying ways to make sure, one, it's authentic, and two, how do we ensure quality control? So which translates downstream to what the consumer is getting, what the consumer of something that we think imparts health, and we know from the evidence that it's healthy for you, but we have to upstream control it to make sure that through systematic research, we really get deep into the nutritional biological potential of olive oil and the olives as well, and assure that what you're getting is high quality. Because we've seen a lot of publicity, over the years of things that are not what they're supposed to be or what they're advertised to be. And add to that the publicity through social media and some fake truths or truthful lies. There you have something that you have to deal with. And obviously from my own interest, particular interest is nutrition and health sciences. How do we create that toolbox that contains the credible information from a scientific standpoint that disseminates that information that the olive tree gives you something that's nutritious, healthy, and you enjoy, but not just from a professional standpoint from me or other people who are involved from a scientific and professional and research interest, but to the consumer. Because the consumer is not going to sit down with you and have this conversation of down to the molecule, but they want something that tastes good and also gives them, imparts some health benefit. But how do we translate that and educate the consumer? Again, going outside people who grew up with this all their lives and they understand that. But how do we do that in the context, let's say, of the United States, where consumption is on an average 1 liter per person per year compared to 20-25 in Greece and 12-13 in Spain and Italy? Why is that difference? We're lucky to be in an institution here where the consumption of olive oil has gone from 1 liter per person per year, which is the US average, to 5 in a short 4 years. How did we do it? Well, there's different ways, and we're using that as an example how to expand that. Obviously, sustainability is in the context of the planetary health and agriculture and agronomy is something big. We cannot think of a tree in the absence of talking about agriculture, and how do you create and facilitate this transdisciplinary approach, whether it's you're an agriculture individual or an agronomist, but also a climate change individual. Everything ties together. And tomorrow, Vasilis will talk about this, the interplay between sort of the public health, individual health, and planetary health, with an example of what we've done as a pilot to develop those ideas. So again, the idea is the quality of life. How do we enhance that? But again, using scientifically sound protocols, whether it's cultivation, processing, and all that, how one thing affects the other, to make sure that we have guidelines for whether you're a farmer out in the field or a producer or whatever you are related to this. How do we give you the best tools? Again, not generated from scratch, but leveraging knowledge that others have developed over the years. And obviously, we cannot talk about an institute that centers around the olive tree and its products without talking to the stakeholders, industry, consumers, various associations, and entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is a big thing here. We've talked to people who created from a different perspective, coming from a different background, created very interesting and innovative ideas that have application to the olive industry. So, how do we generate outputs for the stakeholders? Again, as industry, the interest is to create and be sustainable financially and get profit out of this, understood, and they're investing a lot of money. So how do we provide information that will synchronize the common interest between all these stakeholders, while at the same time maintaining the sort of the integrity, if you will, of an institute that puts out this information, whether it's research or through various consultation and activities that are part of our structure. So just to give you a quick update of where we are so far, like I mentioned, we had a conference in 2018 at the Yale School of Public Health that drew 100 people. Last year, we went to Delphi in December, and we had, it was a 3-day, 2.5-day symposium that was, again, an amazing array of individuals. We had the executive director of the International Olive Council give the keynote, and the focus was on climate change and the impact, the potential positive impact of the olive industry in this. And of course, the plan was, and we had the University of Jaén in Spain, the host for this year, but COVID happened. So now we're redeploying our efforts in seeing how we're going to have the face-to-face push back to next year. And then Italy is lined up with Portugal and Brazil waiting to take the next symposia. But at the same time, the plans are to organize 1-day specialized symposia along the lines of one of those groups that I mentioned. Publications, obviously, is an academic institution with a mission of research, education, community outreach. We have to put something out and share this information besides presence online and social media. We've done a lot of work over the years as an institution, obviously in education and training. Certified education, we're in the process of putting together a program with a couple of industry partners, as well as Culinary Institute of America, to educate both consumers and producers, both here, i.e. in an academic institution, but also it's good to have online presence and train individuals for certain things that are inherent to each group, and will facilitate that. We have a lot of experience in organizing workshops and summer programs, obviously for high school students, as well as colleges. And participation, obviously, in collaborative projects and grants through R&D, where the last couple of months we've been involved with a group out of Greece to do such projects over a year through the Farm to Fork initiative. And we're involved in a couple of others on sort of the human side, the human capital, and social networking of individuals, and how do we build that from the community and to grow outwards, and that ties into community engagement. So that was a quick overview of what we're trying to do. And again, thank you for Athens calling us here. Sometimes I feel, and I'm sure Vasilis shares the same, we're here, but yet we're there in spirit, and we're trying to do something because it's part of who we are and part of what we want to do. And we found this as a useful way, and the response has been tremendous in that. And I put in the slides there a couple of links to the previous symposia we had, the first 2 symposia we had, with links to the talks and the publications that came out of it, of the presentations. So I'll stop right there, and I'm sure I'll entertain any questions at the Q&A session. And again, thank you very much.
We thank you, Professor Kyriakides, and we especially thank you that you create bridges for research, education, training, and international bridges that can contribute to planetary health improvement. So you already have, in order to move on the Q&A session, you already have a question from Professor Kalokerinos.
Okay, let me just go to my chat. Okay.
So Professor Kalokerinos, would you like to ask Professor Kyriakides what you thought and what you written before?
I would like to thank Professor Kyriakides. I think he's a chemist, correct?
Biochemist, yes. But I moved from that about 15 years ago, once I came to public health.
I have a question which is similar to a question by Professor Bosco.
Yep.
Here in Greece, we have a lot of research laboratories with long tradition in research on olive oil, olive meal waste, etc., etc. And we have a lot of information. The question is, can we join this group. Before you answer, I would like to ask Professor Bosco to say it as well, because it is very similar. George?
Hello, Dr. Kyriakides.
Hello.
Do you hear me? Hello.
Yes. Yes.
First of all, I'm very glad you have responded to the invitation to come to this conference. Start my video. Okay. I can, now you can see me, but okay. There is not enough lighting here. It was a very nice choice to join this conference. It would be even better if you could come in Greece and have you here. It happens that I am the vice president of the Scientific Society of Olive Encyclopedists. We created this society in order to unite all the scientists for dealing with olive and olive products in order to make joint efforts. Me, myself, I'm responsible for the sector of table olives and more on the sector of oleogastronomy, the gastronomy for olive oil and table olives, okay? So can you make, is it possible to make a bridge? That's the point of conferences, after all, to create bridges between our society and YOSHI.
Absolutely. I just put, a very quick response, but I'll elaborate to everybody. The opening, when we opened the conference, the first statement I made, and I've been sort of talking to people over the years about this, I felt there was some discomfort in people sharing ideas in this industry, just like a lot of industry. But to me, if we take that away, and I said, the goal of this is to break down the silos, to open the groves, and everybody comes on board. And I believe we exchanged a couple of emails with your society, and I don't know if it was you but everybody and anybody's welcome. If you're in this sector, in this olive tree, from wherever you're coming from, even I want to say even I had a couple of conversations with architects who are involved, and I'll welcome Christina to if she's interested, because everybody has a role in this. How we view this is really interesting, and we want to use everybody's expertise and knowledge. And we've talked to people in Greece. Obviously, I would say more than close to half of the people involved are from Greece or somewhere else, but they're Greeks involved in this because we have a long tradition in the olive tree, and they're part of our groups. And I'll be happy to share, if you drop me an email, I'll be happy to share the structure and who is in each of the groups, and you can decide which group you want to be in, and then we can introduce you to people in that group. That's the whole idea of this, to create this global network with different people in different parts of the world working together towards that. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I started talking to people about this, I talked to somebody at a university in Chile, and they said, well, part of our teaching at the medical school, we have a semester-long course on healthy nutrition. And I said, do you have a curriculum on this? And they said, yeah. So they sent it to me. And nobody else that I know has a whole semester on nutrition that they use to train their medical students. But so these are the kind of things, if somebody develops something somewhere, we want to help move that and share it with other people and teach them how it's done in other places, adapted to their own needs, obviously. But that's the whole idea of what we're trying to do here as a center. Again, I said it before, I said it many times, we have expertise in some things. You'll hear from Vasilis what his expertise and what our group is doing. We have expertise in certain areas, but we cannot claim expertise in everything. Nobody can. We don't have a school that deals with agronomy. So we'll work with others who have schools and do research in agronomy to help us with this. So I'm more than welcome to anybody who wants to join this effort. I mean, I find it, I mean, that's sort of not my full-time job yet, but if, you know, you spend a lot of time talking about this and creating something that everybody can relate to. So I'll be happy to have you involved.
If I can make a comment, Professor Tsekeris.
Well, Mr. Harakopoulos just wrote down that on Friday there's another interesting presentation on grapes subproducts exploitation. So this is a great chance to join forces.
Yep.
And for our universities, for Greek universities and Greek research institutes and research centers to join academic institutions abroad.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Professor Kyriakides.
I will comment on Efthymios' comment, Agricultural University of Athens. Maria Kapsokefalou is a co-chair of one of our core groups. So we have partnerships with the Agricultural University of Athens already. And you know, we collaborate with people starting from Crete all the way to, you know, Thessaloniki and the American Farm School there. So we're trying to establish a lot of programs and projects that we will be involved and facilitate connecting people. So that's again, a call for anybody who wants to join us. We'll be happy.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Of course, Professor Kalokerinos.
Professor Bosco and myself have an association with the Mediterranean Agronomic Institute of Chania.
Exactly.
So I think we should promote some cooperation between Yale and the and Maich, as we say. Also, I know Maria is very good in agricultural. Also, at the University of Athens, we have a group working on olive oil, especially olive oil from Lesbos and other parts of Greece. So I think it would be a very nice start to communicate. If I can make another comment, Professor Tsekeris.
Of course, Professor.
Listening to this session, I have to point out one difference. This is the only session that we have one lecture without PowerPoint by Professor Buraselis. So we were able to look at him in the eyes. Now, this makes a difference. No PowerPoints, we lose the eyes, we can see the face, we can see that the speaker feels what he talks. At the same time, especially with Professor Tsekeris during his presentation, it came to my mind a simple question. Can the machines control the human mind?
Well, yes, machines, advanced algorithms, AI, advanced AI can think what we think, can hack humans, according to Harari, and I think that social media is an example that humans can be read, can be interpreted psychologically by AI, and I think that this is a big a challenge for us, for humans, for governance to regulate social media and algorithms. We need algorithmic transparency, algorithmic regulation to prevent hacking, to get hacked by AI, by machines. And as Harari says, though the self-knowledge, though the know thyself is done by humans better, is done by machines better than by humans. This is the workings of advanced political advertising, and I think Mariana Patrona has a great deal of knowledge about this, that is algorithmic workings can hack human thinking, and a web of thought Internet of Things is getting involved into Web of Thoughts, and Web of Thoughts is a very, very risky thing about the autonomy of human thinking.
I have another question, but before that, Mr. Vasiliou wants to make a comment.
That's right. Mr. Vasiliou, you can make your comment.
Okay. I don't know. Can you hear me? I don't have the camera on anyway.
But we can hear you, okay?
Okay. Thank you very much for everybody. I just wanted to address a few points that Mr. Kalokerinos brought up. Yes, we do collaborate with Nikos Thomaidis from Athens and the Olives from Lesbos and everywhere. We have an entire collaboration starting, as Tasso said, from Hania when we're collaborating with Dr. Saris in terms of the microbiome and the genome of the olive tree, and going all the way up to quality of olive oil and originality of olive oil. We're collaborating with Dr. Theocharis from Thessaloniki, Thessaloniki, Panepistimiou Thessalonikis. So we have all these collections already in place, and you're going to hear about more artificial intelligence and the use of those algorithms and deep learning in terms of agriculture, sustainability, and health tomorrow in my talk. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Vasiliou. I think that both olives and grapes are great symbols for Athenian culture, for Greek culture, and for global culture. So they are global symbols, and they unite people, and they are, I think, symbols for prospective global cooperation. Mariana, would you like to make a reflection on Professor Kalokerinos' comment on human hacking, on the perspective of humans to be hacked or to be controlled by machines? Please unmute your microphone.
I just did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. So, yes, thank you all for your contributions, which were, I think, very important, critical, informative. I think there are different degrees of influence or of impact of, the impact of advanced algorithms and AI on our daily activities, on politics and the political process, as I mentioned in my talk. First of all, for me, a very visible effect is the recycling of opinions and the filter bubble where people intellectually isolate into their own bubble of thought. This constitutes a real threat to democracy and to a substantive dialogue among different, ideological, trends, schools, and ideological currents. So I think we see that the ability of machines, of algorithms to read our personal preferences and to continuously feed us with content that is consonant with these preferences and which leaves out different offerings, other options, is a critical threat to democratic thinking. And if you consider the current rise in radical populism and authoritarianism across the world, I think the impact of social media is decisive. So regulatory initiatives at different levels, from revising algorithmic regulation to social media policies of use, are critical. but also education, media education, and social media literature and education should be introduced at all levels of education from primary, from a very early age, because we know that little children start using social media from a very early age. So cultivating media literacy about practices, ethical practices of content generation and content consumption should be a part of educational curricula at all levels.
Yes.
May I intervene, Mr.
Mr. Professor Buraselis, of course, you can make your comment.
Buraselis, do not
Buraselis, guys.
Well, thank you very much. Just two remarks. First, a suggestion to Kyriakides. As the whole project in which you are participating is called Athens Calls Athens, I may point you to the fact that if you are looking for a suggestive logo of your institute, this could be very nicely a Panathenaic amphora. The Panathenaic amphora was a characteristic vase of ancient Athens in which olive oil of Athens was offered to the victors of the Panathenaic Games, the big games of ancient Athens. If you wish to connect your special and very interesting project with Athens, this would be a very nice way that would be acclaimed at many places. My second remark and suggestion is also connected with the problematic touched upon by my friend Andonis Kalokerinos. I am not afraid of the machine mastering our minds as long as our minds themselves are really reactive. And in this respect, I have a suggestion for both Miss Patrona and Miss Maistreli. I think we are trapped by terms. As a historian and philologist, and please remind also, I may remind you also of the problematic in Orwell's book mentioned by Tsekeris. I am very much afraid of terms that may trap us. Such a term is post-truth politics. Why not be courageous enough, if you like, to speak of lie politics? There is nothing beyond truth that is truth. And concerning Miss Maistreli's presentation, I was struck by the term spatial symbols. If we degrade ourselves monuments to spatial symbols and detract from them the sense and the value of historic symbols, are we doing the right thing in this respect? These were my remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Buraselis. Yes, Professor Kyriakides.
Just one.
And then Ms. Patrona, yeah.
Thank you, Professor Buraselis.
And after Ms. Patrona, Professor Feidakis would like to make a comment, please.
Just a quick comment, Professor Buraselis. Thanks for the suggestion. As we obviously we have to go through all the approvals from the university to even the color of choice that we decide has to go through certain stages. But I mean, those are ideas that obviously, you know, we're biased as both me and Vasilis being of Greek background. Obviously, we want to portray anything Greek in this, but we have to go through the steps. But I will take you up on that suggestion. Thank you.
Mariana. Thank you, Professor. Mariana.
In response to Professor Buraselis about the value or lack of value of using specialized terminology and the coining, the neologisms, the coining of new terms to describe current sociological trends, societal, economic, political, etc. I would say that the term post-truth, in what concerns my talk, has its value because it shows a new reaction, a general reaction to intellectualism, which is significant in its own right, a reaction to scientific, inquiry, scientific endeavor, putting forward alternative facts and alternative versions of reality as another proposal for citizens. So this is significant in its own right, I think, because citizens are increasingly attracted by approaches that do not capitalize on facts and scientific research, but rather on intuition, emotion, and personal opinion. So in this sense, post-truth is indeed characterizing the current social and political scene. So the term has its value, I think, in helping explain a current trend with many different repercussions.
I just wanted to remark that we must be aware of what it actually means. I'm afraid through describing something as a post-truth reality, we are hiding the reality.
Yeah, I'm sure if I can go on for just a few seconds, I'm sure that Professor Kyriakides, who is a US resident, is aware of the, of a new political offering in the United States, which advances alternative facts and personal views and emotional reactions, as opposed to scientifically documented, a scientifically documented reality. Of course, reality is to a large extent a matter of perspective. We know that. We know that reality is constructed, right? We have different versions of reality that are proposed by different disciplines and at different historic moments. But if you wanted to, if you would like to comment on that, Professor Kyriakides.
Yes, my comment is that we live it every day. And I mean, I will side with Professor Buraselis. I don't call it post-truth, I call it lying.
Mm-hmm.
So, because to me, the post-truth has the implication that if it's not true, what is it? I don't think there's not two versions of truth. There's one version of truth. So post-truth implies that there's something, another flavor of truth, but the matter of fact is it's a lie.
Well, it could be half-truth. It could be part of the truth. There could be facts or points concealed in it would be half the picture instead of the overall picture. So I think that takes a lot of discussion. But thank you for your comment.
I would propose you as an alternative term, alternative interpretation of the truth. This could cover both things.
Well, interpretation of the facts. It's not interpretation of the truth. It's I interpret the facts differently and I spin it and I make it a lie and I call it something different.
Yes, we also talk about post-facts, but the thing is that these terms, of course, this epistemological debate is inexhaustive. We cannot say all these dimensions here, but I think that the thing is that post-truth reflects this media-saturated world we live in, and it reflects this mix between orality within social media, emotions, facts, a hybrid reality, which is not lies, it's not truth, it's not facts, it is a hybrid process of reality construction. And I think that technology changes the meaning of truth in a significant extent. Truth is always relational. It is relational in a sense that the object and the subject are related in this reality construction, but media technology is the level that is very decisive nowadays. So the thing is very complex, and we need many other definitions and many other research efforts to combine the different parameters. But I'd like to permit to allow Professor, my dear Professor Stathiadis, to make a comment. Professor Stathiadis, can you hear me? Okay, he will come back. So I think that the word post-truth and the word post-facts are emergent phenomena within this digital age and within the social media age, and misinformation does not imply lies. It is the way it is also the way we perceive truth is different, is the way Huxley described we perceive truth in a way that we don't care about truth, and within echo chambers, within filter bubbles, truth changes meanings, and we give very personalized, very subjective definition of truth, facts, democracy, institutions. So we need a new enlightenment so that we can speak in public in an autonomous way, and no algorithm, no external forces, and no forces within us will change the original meaning of modernity and enlightenment. That's why we need a new enlightenment, a new kind of literacy throughout the world. Would you like, Mr. Stathiadis, are you still here, or? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm not a professor, but I do have the honor of participating in this panel. So I would like to make an overall commentary on behalf of Athens Calls Athens. We are very, very glad to have this discussion of
your connection is not good.
I would like to thank especially the University of Yale for their contribution in this discussion and this happening right now. So I have to switch off the camera because they connected. That was the purpose, as I said, to have this based on reciprocity.
Very, very bad connection.
Yeah, apologies for this very bad connection.
Just make your question. Just make your question.
No, there's no question actually.
Or make your comment. Make your comment, please.
That was the commentary on behalf of the Athens Calls Athens, that we would like to thank the University of Yale and everybody that participated in this discussion. That was the purpose of the conference overall, to have these synergies to be created based on reciprocity and continuity. And through this conference, the Athens Calls Athens would like to ask to extend a calling to Yale University to propose the points of focus that they would like to have, so that others of Athens are possibly interested and possibly capable of participating in this effort, so that synergies to be created. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's the point. Professor Patrikakis, can you hear me? Professor Patrikakis is still here?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was on mute.
May I ask you, please, if you have ever thought about the implications of these technological developments to citizenship, first, and second, to human experience. That is, humanity, human experience, human values are central to our conference and to our session. I especially care about the concept of citizenship, the process of citizenship. How is it evolving within this new technological environment you described before?
Yes. Well, all the technologies that have been presented during my presentation have been investigated and are also in mind to be investigated through other proposals in the context of actual application in the field. For example, we collaborate with the addresses, providing our game-based approach, and it's here there is this day that celebrates the conservation of monuments. Up to last year, if I remember correctly, there was this game which was taking place around Athens, where people were asked to go and solve some riddles. Now, this year we tried it in a different way, the way I described it here. Instead of people visiting some places, they could also actually contribute, be part of this preservation or conservation process by giving something back. Now, the same can apply to what I presented earlier about the orthophotos from the pictures taken and uploaded in social media, because you're uploading these pictures anyway, but at the same time, you could be actually contributing to the process of preserving cultural heritage. This is how the idea of human as a sensor, and if I was also to expand to social networks in other research that we're doing, human as a trust sensor in social media, it is very important, because and this is a philosophy where we have adopted in the lab. Humans and machines do not work or serve. They can collaborate. I mean, we've heard about this term of Internet of Everything, Internet of Humans, Internet of Animals. In technological terms, we are equal. And now that AI kicks in, it will be more difficult. It is already more difficult to distinguish between the human and the machine. And I think the answer is one: it's collaboration for the common good.
Yes, thank you very much. Collaborative intelligence is, I think, is a target here. Collaborative intelligence and human-centric development that incorporates human values, and human values should be set forth, and so reforms should be thought, should be designed, proper reforms within this technological environment. And I think that according to my colleagues from Athens, we have only 1 or 2 minutes to close this session. So I ask everybody if has something final comment to say, or may I please make just a concluding remark? I would like to thank all participants for great, very, very special and constructive presentations. I would like all of you to think about a written piece within the proceedings. The proceedings will be a great success, I guess. And I think that humanity is not in trouble, but is in big challenges, is in a mass of risks, interconnected, interdependent risks, and we need global collaboration to tackle these risks, to respond to the challenge of upgrading humanity, democracy at the same time. And so these kind of efforts are very, very useful. So I thank you very much for this great session, and hope to see you tomorrow in the next panels to discuss again other issues. Many, many thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think Professor Tsekeris,
Yes, Professor.
it's time for us to make the closing comments of the first day of the conference. You as the moderator of session number 2 and me as the moderator of session number 1, and everyone else who would like to make a comment or add something are most welcome.
Okay, let's do an overall, very, very brief commentary.
Okay. Session number 1 had 8 lectures, 7 plus 1 minute, 1 last minute presentation, and it was technology. I understood that technology runs very fast. New discoveries come every day, like 3D printing, drug discovery by chem information, etc. And to be honest, I am not sure if we can control these very fast discoveries of technology. Artificial intelligence, to be honest, I am scared. It is very useful, but I am scared that maybe machines at the end will control our mind. I hope not. Internet. We all heard some very nice presentations about the use of internet. Excellent. What are we doing now? We are having a conference and we sit in our offices at home or at work. We are far away from each other. This is isolation. This is social isolation. It's all right for me to sit in my office and do all this. Very nice. But we are losing the social contact. Internet is a very big discovery, but also a very dangerous discovery. During the discussion by Professor Patrona, I realized that we have fake news. Everybody can say what he likes. We don't know if it is true or not. We have the information immediately as it comes out. But is this information wrong or correct? So at the end, I can make bullet number 1. Technology is very useful, but very fast. Bullet number 2. Internet is very important, but it is very dangerous. As I said in the morning, please remember, when was last time you used a stamp and the letter in an envelope? Bullet number 3, artificial intelligence. We have to be careful, but who will be responsible? Bullet number 4, we are going to have smart cars that they drive without a driver. Okay, very useful, very nice. But is there any end in this smart car, smart planes maybe, smart buses, smart boats? I don't know. Anyway, from my side, I have to say that I enjoyed all the lectures today. I don't have anything else to add. If somebody else has, please do. Professor Tsekeris.
Professor Kyriakides, thank you very much for your great overall comment. I'd like to distinct between, just a small comment, I'd like to distinct between geographical and social isolation. We are geographically isolated, but we are socially connected through digital means. I mean, networks play an important role in our sociality and our humanity nowadays. We should exploit the positive dynamics of digital networks and become more connected with more empathy and more collaboration. And finally, I agree that new technology and especially AI puts many threats and risks positive and negative. It is a very ambivalent phenomenon, but I think that we have to build human capital, digital human capital, digital social capital, digital institutional capital to respond to these risks, and we have to create reforms at the institutional level, data policy, a framework of trust, ethical frameworks, regulatory normative frameworks, in order to be more hopeful, to create more hopes, less fears to the public, to embrace technology and to move forward, to update humanity, to update democracy with technology as a positive weapon, not as a threat, not as a danger. Humanity as a whole should reflect itself, to give a new meaning to itself. We need a new meaning for what it means to be a human, and this answer will be given with technology in mind. Thank you very much.
Anyone else who wants to make a comment?
No.
I think that me and Professor Tsekeris should declare the first day of the conference finished, over. I would like to see you all tomorrow as well in the second day, and thank you all for being with us on the first day of this very important conference. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.